Sustainability is the destination. I can see it up ahead. It's within our reach because it always has been. It's our destiny because it was part of our past. Now let's all pull together, join this movement, share this vision, celebrate the extraordinary source that is this country, and bring the food and drink that we make with such care for the world to the world. Let's all sign up to Origin Green.
"15 months since the launch of Origin Green, over 280 companies, accounting for 2/3 of Ireland's food and drink exports, have answered that call, and together with 35,000 farms, have signed up to Origin Green, have joined the movement and share the vision. And in another 20 months, another 15 months, by the end of next year, and with the addition of a further 20,000 farm enterprises, 75% of our exports will be coming from farms and food businesses that are on the journey. By 2016, all will be on that unique industry-wide journey, on a road never travelled anywhere before, one fully audited, documented, independently certified or internationally accredited every step of the way. This, Minister, ladies and gentlemen, is a story of that journey, a journey that we believed, through the enhanced marshalling of our resources, will deliver value in all of its dimensions to our customers, to our markets, and to society. It's a journey that we invite you, our customers, to join us on. It's one that's been a long time in the making. It's a century and a half, as we heard this morning, since Ireland, with its complex past, lost 1 million of its population to hunger, and a further 2.5 million who fled the country because of our over-reliance on a single plant. In a land subdivided into holdings often so small, the potato seemed the only viable option. It proved not sustainable. Today, 17 decades later, after what has been described as the worst social disaster to occur in any one country in 19th century Europe, Irish agriculture has moved on. The potato fields replaced mainly by grassland. Our holdings larger now, yet still cared for by the farm families that have passed them intact down through the generations, as if nothing else mattered. With more cattle now than people, our beef industry is the largest net exporter in the Northern Hemisphere. Our dairy industry, about to expand by 50% as European quotas are lifted, already accounts for more than 1/10 of the world's total output of infant formula. Our sea waters are 10 times our land mass. We export 80% of much of what we produce to 175 markets around the world. Yet, shaped as we all are by our past, the concept of sustainability resonates deeply. It's a resonance I think many of us felt touched by this morning by Mark Cackler's photograph of his old homestead from which his grandfather departed 120 years ago. It's a resonance that many of you may have sensed. Those of you who have been travelling the countryside over recent days, those of you who have been here on previous visits. The overwhelming image of Ireland among people we have researched on the continents around us is of a land of green fields and abundance bestowed by nature, pure, untainted, free of the pollution typically associated with industrial production. It's a perception matched by this true colour image taken in October time. An island washed by the Atlantic Gulf Stream, passed over by the Industrial Revolution. According to standard EU measures, our air quality is amongst the highest in Europe. And as the world faces water shortages, our credentials could hardly be more compelling. As demonstrated by this chart here, where Ireland scarcely figures on the extreme right-hand side to figure on the horizontal axis of this water stress index for selected countries. But our green credentials run still deeper. This chart, published by the European Commission, shows how the Irish dairy industry has the joint lowest carbon footprint in the European Union. While according to the same research, our beef industry, too, is amongst the top 5 performing member states in the Union, highlighting once again the natural advantages conferred on us by what is arguably our single biggest differentiator, our grass-based production systems. So one might say that it all comes naturally. The rain, the grass, the green fields, each with a name given to it by the families that have farmed them down through the generations. It's certainly a great starting point, but as we've heard throughout today, the world now demands and needs more. And the true greenness of our credentials will be judged no longer just by what comes naturally, but while we account for our custodianship of the resources that have been entrusted to us on behalf of the generations to come. Origin Green is our account of that custodianship, a new national voluntary programme of measurement and feedback, of targets, actions, and continuous improvement. In its unique ambition that all of our food and drink exports be sourced by 2016 from farms and food businesses, each one that will be individually certified as being on the road to sustainability. It's a programme we believe can position Ireland as a world leader in sustainability. When we announced this programme in June of last year, we were not starting from scratch. This was a journey that had already begun with an infrastructure in our quality assurance schemes that was already in place, including a team of auditors visiting at that time over 20,000 farms and food businesses across a range of enterprises every year. An infrastructure, too, that already contained sustainability measures around food safety, animal welfare, and the environment. Covering 60% of our production, of our exports, it also included much of our primary production, as represented by the green segments in the bars of this chart, with the balance in blue set to be turned to green as we expand our programs through this and the following year. An infrastructure that extends from land to sea when we take account of the corresponding assurance and sustainability schemes in place by our sister agency, BIM, the Irish Sea Fisheries Board. So this was the infrastructure, the platform that we had already in place available to us to create a new vehicle, to embark on a new journey in a new direction. And we started by addressing the issue of emissions and carbon footprinting. Working with the Carbon Trust in the UK since 2009, and with TAGISC, the National Agricultural Development Advisory Authority, our science and technology partner in this venture here at home, we began by undertaking detailed audits across 300 representative farms of varying enterprise types. From these detailed audits, we developed carbon footprint calculation models that were accredited by the Carbon Trust to the past 2050 standard for our beef and for our dairy farms. This provided us with the methodology and the template to integrate carbon footprinting as a routine and integral part of our farm audits and roll it out on a national basis. And this is how it works. The audit arrives on farm, switches on a handheld device signaling to a central database the commencement of the audit and its exact geographic positioning. Detailed information is then gathered from on-farm records, from discussions with the farmer, and from observation. Following completion of the on-farm audit, further information is downloaded from 2 national databases, including the Animal Identification Movement Database operated by our Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, which stores on a live basis details and the whereabouts of every single animal, its age and its movement for every single farm in the country. Drawing on all of these detailed data sources, the carbon footprint of the farm is assessed, and it is fed back to the farmer. It is compared with peer performance across similar enterprises so that the farmer can then work towards improving the farm's carbon footprint over time. In addition, farmers have access to this new Farm Navigator tool developed specially for the purpose by TAGISC and by Board BIA that enables farmers working on the outputs from the farm audit to set new targets for the key indicators that have determined the farm's performance and witness the impact that achieving them would have in reducing the farm's emissions and in reducing the farm's production costs. To date, we have carbon footprinted 35,000 beef farms, many for the second time on their repeat cycle. We are rolling out the programme across all 18,000 enterprises that make up the dairy sector. In some, we have undertaken 50,000 carbon assessments on farms since we began. In this, we believe we are already a world leader. There is no other country anywhere that is carbon footprinting its farms on a national scale, on a routine basis, in the process of measurement, feedback, and continuous improvement. And as we expand carbon footprinting into all of our quality schemes, so are we expanding our schemes into remaining outstanding sectors, such as the grains for our bakers, our brewers, and our distillers. We are at the same time integrating additional sustainability measures around water conservation and management into our farm audits, around biodiversity, including the management of hedgerows and other natural habitats on farms. Because it's not just about carbon. And it's not just about sustainability on the farm, although that's where our work began, because that's where 75% of the emissions in the value chain arise. So in June of last year, we launched the Sustainability Charter to enable food and drink manufacturing firms demonstrate their sustainability credentials in their business. In designing the Charter, we have drawn on the ICL Alliance's Code of Good Practice, a global association for sustainability standards established more than a decade ago. And this is how the Charter works. Every company creates a 3 to 5 year sustainability development plan, identifying the key target areas most relevant to their business. They agree a baseline period, they set timelines and targets, and following independent verification by SGS, itself a world leader in certification services, they're accepted as a member and file an annual progress report. That report, too, subject to independent verification by SGS. Both environmental and social dimensions are recognized in the plan, where members are required to set stretch targets across 3 separate areas, beginning with raw material sourcing and certification, and then moving on to manufacturing processes, where stretch targets must be set in areas such as energy efficiency, emissions, water and waste management. And finally, social sustainability, the shared value that we heard about earlier, where targets must be set for areas such as health and nutrition and investment in community initiatives. We have established this web portal, origingreen.ie, to enable prospective members go online, learn more about the Charter, seek advice, and formally register their interest. Each and every one of the more than 280 companies that is registered for Origin Green is listed separately on this site, which is publicly accessible, together with its approval status, whether a plan has been submitted and membership achieved. In helping firms prepare their plans, which is a very arduous process and can take maybe 5, 6, or 7 iterations, and ultimately to deliver on the stretch targets, companies have access to a range of state support services, including this Green Business Programme operated by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, as well as programmes available from Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland and from Enterprise Ireland. And here we can see examples of the kind of targets being set by companies, the achievement against which will enable those firms in their own reporting systems share the story of their own sustainability journey with their customers. Collectively, as we accumulate the evidence across all firms, we can share the story of an entire industry in one country and its own sustainability report to the publication of an annual sustainability report for Irish food and drink. Given what we've heard this morning, it shouldn't come as any surprise to anyone that the Irish food and drink industry should embark on this journey and make this commitment. What might surprise, however, that is what is, after all, a voluntary programme, self-funded, not primarily or proactively an issue being driven by consumers, should receive such traction and near universal engagement among virtually all participants across all parts of the supply chain. And we are fully on track for our goal of 100% participation by 2016. Certainly, the dilemma of whether we starve or whether we burn, as the world seeks, on the one hand, to feed its expanding population, and on the other, to deal with climate change, can itself be a powerful motivating force. So too is the knowledge that as the world faces resource limitations and water shortages, we must all conserve wherever we can. And doesn't it help, too, that we might be inspired, knowing that we're actually doing the right thing for those that come after? All of those together, or any one on their own, might be sufficient to drive traction. Saving the planet is indeed a noble thing, and we must all play our part. But playing our part and doing the right thing is made infinitely easier when we know that by doing so, we're actually building on our strengths. Green and natural is how we've always presented ourselves to the world. That's how the world, from our research, has always seen us. And even if today our customers are now telling us, as they are, that we must prove it as well, that our industry has been happy to do. This, after all, is what it has always stood for. This is its reputation. This is the intangible asset that Jason Clay spoke about this morning that makes 80% of the value of companies today. But there's another powerful, compelling reason why the Origin Green programme should gain such traction among its own members. And that is because our farmers and our food processors realize that it can actually save money. It doesn't have to entail new sacrifices. It doesn't have to cost any more. But we do believe it does deserve market preference. Most of all, it's about a better utilization of scarce resources, delivering value for our customers, for our markets, and for society. So whether it is consumers in search of value, or companies and nations seeking food security, using this chart from Nestle as an illustration, that search is made all the easier when we can produce more food from less land, with less water, less energy, and all of the other inputs. Sustainable intensification, driving efficiencies in our farms and in our factories. And there is value. There is value, too, in the enhanced respect we show for our environment and in the authenticity and traceability that comes from knowing not just where our food has been produced, but of that extra care with which it has been produced by all players along the value chain. And at a time when more and more consumers recognize the link between diet and health, and how it can help them live longer and look better, at a time when obesity is one of the biggest challenges facing society today, there is value too when we can underpin, through objective measures, the purity and integrity of our food ingredients and the knowledge of our commitment to the production of healthier and more nutritious foods. And even if consumers today are not prioritizing sustainability in their buying decisions, we all know that consumers rely implicitly. They rely implicitly on all of us along the value chain to do the right thing. And we all know there is a price to pay when we don't. As we seek in this country to realize our ambitions articulated in our national roadmap for this decade, expanding food production and dealing with the challenges, our business case, our bottom line on sustainability is simply this. By embracing it, we are building on our strengths, we're utilizing our resources more efficiently, and we're delivering value in all of those dimensions to our customers, to our markets, to people and to the planet. As we continue on our journey, we know we have much to learn. We have learned much already this morning, and we have even still more to do as we seek to navigate our way successfully to what is, after all, an evolving agenda towards sustainability and a better world. And so among our recent initiatives has been the appointment this month of 10 Origin Green ambassadors whose sole purpose over the next 2 years, as they embed themselves in the marketplace, will be to engage in two-way dialogue with our customers, to learn of their sustainability needs, to share our vision and how best it can be realised, working in alignment together. Our Origin Green ambassadors are jointly funded by Borbia and by these leading Irish food and drink manufacturers, themselves members of Origin Green, themselves committed to the principles and the values and the transformative potential of the Origin Green programme, working on a pro bono basis, not on their own behalf, but in support of the entire Irish food and drink industry. Our ambassadors have begun their induction this month at the Smuffet Graduate School of Business, Ireland's leading graduate business school. And as they continue their induction in the weeks and months ahead in our farms and in our factories, they will move out into the international marketplace from the early part of next year. As they do, we ask you to help them on their journey. In fact, we go one step further, and we ask you to join us on our journey. Share our vision. Join the members of the Origin Green movement to complete the sustainability of the supply chains that we share together. I hope that those of you who have come from overseas and have been in the country over recent days may have found one more reason to believe that when you source food and drink from this island on the edge of the Atlantic, you're serving not just your own needs, but you're serving the needs of your customers, and you're serving the needs of the planet by bringing the food and drink that we now strive to make with so much more care for the world, to the world. So join us on Origin Green, and thank you for your attention.